Hi, I'm Nick and I like comics.
And I'm Adam and I know comics.
Welcome to another episode of Imperius Arcs, where we cover story arcs and other comic-related tidbits to better inform and nerdify the world. Today we are asking the question, is Deadpool an R-rated character?
As you are all aware, the Deadpool movie that comes out later this week is in fact rated R. And it seems that it is going to be a pretty hard R rating.
In early 2016, Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trailer released an episode pleading with Fox to release a PG-13 cut of the movie. All because an 8-year-old little boy wrote a letter to his mother. The internet had a lot of fun with this one.
An overwhelming response of the public has been something to the effect of, you can't have the real Deadpool unless it's a rated R movie. He's dirty, perverted, and violent. It just wouldn't be Deadpool with a PG-13 rating.
So this got us thinking. Is Deadpool an R-rated character? Now, before we really dive into this, we know that movie production companies have creative control over their movies and properties. Therefore, you can have a movie like Aragon that is absolutely nothing like the book. And I'm still bitter about that movie 10 years later. Seriously.
You can see this in comic book movies as well. Peter Parker, for instance, has organic web shooters in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Bucky Barnes is created by Hydra instead of Russia, and Wolverine goes back in time in Days of Future Past instead of Kitty Pryde.
So we know that there are changes that happen, and for the most part, people seem to be pretty okay with them. Except in the case of Deadpool and Wolverine Origins.
Before we take a deeper look at whether or not Deadpool is an R-rated character, let's look at the comic book rating system, which goes back in some form or fashion to the Comics Code Authority, which debuted in 1954. There is tons of information out there on the CCA, but the main purpose of it was to make it so that the young comic readers would not turn to delinquency. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say so. The code states, for example, in every instance, good shall triumph over evil and the criminal punished for his misdeeds.
All scenes of horror, excessive bloodshed, gory or gruesome crimes, depravity, lust, sadism, masochism shall not be permitted. Also profanity, obscenity, smut, vulgarity, or words or symbols which have acquired undesirable meanings are forbidden. Now, it's important to note that comics were not forced to abide by these rules, but many comic stands at the time would not sell non-CCA approved titles. This is ultimately what led to the demise of the Tales from the Crypt comic.
It's no wonder that comics from the 1950s and 60s were so campy. But during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Marvel really pushed the envelope of what was permissible from the CCA, until ultimately dropping the code in 2001. However, when Marvel published the New Mutants number 98 in 1991, Deadpool's first appearance, Marvel still abided by the CCA, in some form or fashion.
Movies have had a form of their current rating system since 1968, and the 5 major things that determine a rating of a movie are violence, language, substance abuse, nudity, and sexual content. These are pretty self-explanatory. The more of these you have, the higher the rating. The same thing goes for television, music, video games, and of course, comic books.
Nudity or sex on panel are not things that we typically see in Deadpool comics. Yes, there is some nudity in Deadpool Max, but we're gonna ignore that for right now. So ultimately, we need to look at the language and violence to see if Deadpool really is an R-rated character.
From the beginning, we've seen that Deadpool likes to say things like or
easy there, Tiger.
What? All I said was In X-Force number 2, Deadpool's second appearance, we see Wade's potty mouth in action when he says Sorry. Over the past quarter century, Deadpool has used this type of language in his books.
However, Wade's use of this type of swearing is few and far between. He'd rather make a pop culture reference or a punny joke. For 17 years, Deadpool must have had some sort of potty mouth because Daniel Way actually makes fun of this fact in Wolverine Origins number 23. Whenever Wade tries to curse, it gets bleeped out. The voice in his head tells him to try to curse again to see if the bleeping happens. And it does.
Aside from his mouth, Deadpool is also known for being a violent character. I mean, after all, he is an assassin. His job is literally to kill. Early on in his career, however, the violence was pretty stereotypical comic book style, hand-to-hand combat, punching, kicking, not as much stabbing and, the killing.
Right. When it comes to violence in movies, what is the major difference between a PG-13 movie and an R-rated movie? Well, gore. There are a lot of PG-13 movies that are very violent. They just don't show the gore. Movies like James Bond or Taken. Lots of violence, but no gore. A lot of dead bodies does not equal an R rating. Gore does.
In fact, when Loki stabs and kills Coulson in the first Avengers movie, the original cut showed the bloody, gory mess, and thus the movie was given an R rating. The film was recut in a way so that Coulson's death was off camera, and lo and behold, the movie got a very well-received PG-13 rating.
From early on, Deadpool abided by the CCA's stance on violence. Well, to an extent. People got shot, others died, some were stabbed, but the comics really didn't show gore. Yes, there were a few instances of blood splattering across the panel, but we didn't actually see the blood spewing out of a person.
Right. In 2001, Marvel officially dropped the CCA and came up with their own rating system. Deadpool's first comic under this system of rating? PG. Deadpool number 65. After getting into a little battle with the MPAA, Marvel couldn't actually use the movie rating system. This changed things.
In Cable and Deadpool number 1, which debuted in 2004, this issue was given a PSR, or Parental Supervision Recommended, rating. Still Marvel's PG equivalent. And if you look at the content inside of the book, there is violence, explosions, all of that jazz, but no stabbing, no gore. This book definitely fits the rating that it was given.
By the end of Cable and Deadpool, the book had switched to a Teen Plus rating system, and the comic definitely reflected that change. And while more violent, Marvel still deemed this book PG-13 equivalent.
In 2007, Deadpool made his first parental advisory appearance in Wolverine Origins number 20. And while the blood and gore is amped up from Teen Plus comics, the rating is still suitable for readers who are 15 and older.
In fact, Marvel doesn't actually have an R-rated comic. They jump from Parental Advisory, which is 15 years of age and up, to Marvel Max Comics, which is 18 and up. Max Comics would equate to an NC-17, TV Mature, or MA video game rating. These comics cannot be purchased by someone under the age of 18. And I would know. I mean, I worked in a comic shop for a couple years.
One could potentially argue that Parental Advisory is Marvel's R-rated equivalent, but that's not true. Movies can be rated R for many reasons, and a major part of that rating system is nudity and sexual content. No parent advisory comic can have nudity or sexual content, meaning sex on panel, where an R-rated movie absolutely can.
It's also legal for a parent to buy their child a ticket to an R-rated movie, no matter the child's age. But when I worked in a comic shop, we sold parental advisory comics to pretty much anyone who could buy them, regardless of whether they were 15 or not.
So is Deadpool really an R-rated character? First off, we would argue no, due to the fact that he has never been in an R-rated comic. Yes, there is Deadpool Max, but it's not a part of the major 616 or now Prime universe.
Right. Of course, Deadpool curses, or at least he says but his total number of swears is nowhere near that of Frank Castle, the Punisher. Plus, it is well documented that Deadpool is crazy. I mean, what if Deadpool isn't actually cursing? What if he's actually saying $, £, ampersand? While this explanation is a little ridiculous, it is very Deadpool.
Last, we have violence. Yes, Deadpool is violent. He stabs, shoots, and kills. But most of the violent acts in Deadpool comics actually happen to Wade. His crazy healing factor allows writers to put Wade through redonkulous stuff. So although the gore level can be high in Deadpool comics, most of the most graphic scenes in Deadpool's books actually happen to Wade, not quote-unquote normal people. This can be shrugged off as Deadpool being Deadpool. Also, I think most people forget that comics are essentially cartoons, and artists can get away with a lot more violence in cartoons than, say, a director can with a live-action movie or television show.
Did you know that Wade's not the most violent character in the Marvel Universe? As of 2015, that award goes to Wolverine with 46 confirmed kills. Deadpool has 36. Now, no one has been screaming for an R-rated Wolverine movie, but with the logic that most people use for an R-rated Deadpool, it should be applied. Wolverine deserves one too.
I don't think that either of us really have a problem with an R-rated Deadpool. What we challenge is that the Deadpool in the comics is R-rated. He's not. And if he is, why isn't Wolverine?
And yes, we know the Deadpool video game is pretty raunchy and foul-mouthed, but again, that's not the Deadpool from the comics. That is someone's interpretation of what they think the character could be. Like we said at the beginning, creative control.
So what do you think? Is Deadpool of the comics R-rated or not? Do you think we are crazy, or do you kind of agree with us? Why don't you hit that thumbs up or thumbs down button and let us know what you think in the comments below.
And of course, please subscribe to our channel and check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And until next time, we're gonna go see the Deadpool movie.
Yep. We've seen that Deadpool likes to say things like chicken or mittens.
Easy there, Tiger.
What? All I said was mittens.